Hi everybody, long time no see. Today I figured I would talk about the Switch 2 and give you my first impressions. It's been out for like a little over a month, and I've had it for enough time where I think I can just give you my first impressions on it. I'm going to talk about Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza in this video. I won't spoil anything, so this video is spoiler free if you just want an idea of what an average person thinks of it. So let's talk about the overall like hardware first and everything. Here is the Switch 2. It is, you can see my screen. It's massive. It is huge. I should have got my Switch for comparison, but you can kind of just see by me holding it. This thing is huge. And the thing I've first noticed is it's actually bigger in real life. It looks a lot bigger when you're holding it than it does appear on video. So I really like the screen size. It's huge. It's still very comfortable to play in handheld. Everything on here feels more premium. And if you spend any significant amount of time with this thing, it doesn't even need to be like a week, like just a couple days, and you go back to your Switch, you're going to notice that the Switch feels like a toy. Not just because it's tiny, the Joy-Con buttons are super, super tiny, but this just feels overall way more premium. It's made with a really nice kind of matte finish, so it's soft to the touch, but not quite matte. I don't think this is gonna pick up oils as much as a true matte finish would. All the buttons just feel better. If we look at the top, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this stuff, but we have the volume and the power. We have a USB-C port. We have a headphone jack, the game card thing. Nice big fans. There's fans and there's speakers on the bottom, another USB port. And then we also have the new kickstand, which is really, really good. It's a little thin, but it's really sturdy, and there's a lot of resistance to it when moving it, so it actually works. I can't really show off on this angle, but it works incredibly well, way better than I had the original Switch. It was like a useless kickstand. This is really sturdy and works super well, so you can actually get some use out of that. The whole thing just feels way more premium. We also have these magnetic Joy-Cons now. Here's what the Joy-Cons look like. We'll talk about those in a minute, but the way that it connects is with this magnetic connection system. They just snap right on. And there are these buttons on the back. You just press and you feel them unlock, and it works. It all works super well. A couple other things, like speakers. Let me just open a game real quick. Speakers are pretty good. They're loud. I'm going to crank this thing. Mario Kart. Nice loud speakers. Let's show you the grip for the Joy-Cons. I'm not a big Joy-Con fan, and these haven't completely won me over, but they are more comfortable to use. Here's the included grip, and these are also, it's magnetic, so they just pop right in. And then you have that kind of bizarre controller that existed on the Switch 1. I like that they've moved the handles down, so your hands are more at a normal position than they were before. And they didn't just make these Joy-Cons larger and increase, just the quality of the buttons. They're rounded on the sides, as well as increasing the button size. You can see that shoulder button is huge now. So these are actually pretty comfortable to hold in your hands from just the overall feel, the finish, and the way they're rounded. It makes for a comfortable experience, as well as when you're using this. This is not going to be my favorite way to play, but I find this to be much more comfortable now. And, if I had guests over and I gave them the Pro controllers to use, I wouldn't mind using this for Mario Kart or something. It's fine. So you can hear that going crazy. So everything feels better. The only thing is these joysticks, they're bigger. The Joy-Cons are bigger now, but and maybe they're a little bit smoother, but I still am not a fan of these joysticks. I mean, they're not true joysticks. I'm not going to be using this for serious gaming. And they'll probably get drift at some point too. The only other thing I want to point out about these that is a little concerning is if you look at here, and it might not come across on video, but there's really no wiggle to that R trigger, and it feels really nice and premium, whereas this one, you can probably see it on video, has a little bit of wiggle to it. And it doesn't function it doesn't affect the way they function. Everything works fine, but that's an annoying little quality control feature, and I've seen plenty of other people have had that issue. and they've returned it and gotten one with the same issue. I've seen people have an issue with the right one. So if you're like a person where that's going to drive you nuts, you might get one that does that. Something to keep note of. It's just an annoying thing. So anyways, yeah, overall the build quality is great. I'm not really going to show off the UI because it's functionally the same. It looks the same. It's had a minor visual tweak, but if I can just show off like switching around, everything is very, very snappy. I'm not going to show you the eShop because it is literally the same, but it functions very quickly now, and it doesn't have that annoying, like, the eShop on the Switch, like, barely works, right? On here, it's very quick. It actually works perfectly now. It's snappy and everything. No eShop music still, which is annoying. I don't know why they've done away with that. Like, in my opinion, that music, everyone likes the music, right? Like, the Wii eShop music is very iconic, and I think probably psychologically it keeps you in the shop, right? So I don't know why they've done away with that. They still have AI generated slop and asset flip games in there. They're kind of hidden more than they used to be, but that's still there. So yeah. What else? I have a cheat sheet here because there's a lot to talk about. I talked about the Joy-Cons. I've given you my pros and cons. They're definitely way higher quality. I just wish they were a little wider, actually. They're still a little narrow, and there's a little quality control issue, but these are definitely vastly improved. The other thing, which will be a little hard to show, but is the mouse functionality. This was something where I figured it was going to work the way they intended. Like, they said you can just pick up your Joy-Con and use it as a mouse, and that's true. But I was a little worried about the sensitivity. Like, okay, sure, it will work, but is it going to feel like a mouse? And I have to say, this is one of the best features of this console. It actually, to quote Todd Howard, it just works. You just pick your Joy-Con up, you put it down as you would a mouse, and it instantly knows you're using it. You pick it up, and it knows you're not using it as a mouse. So let me show you. So I'm scrolling, and I'm going to put the mouse down, and it instantly knows that I'm using a mouse. It's hard to click because, yeah. But, yeah, and you use the trigger to click. This is stupid to do backwards like that. But, yeah, it just works. So it's really cool. I've used it for Fortnite to play a couple games like that, and it works surprisingly well. It's probably the thing that has surprised me the most. It is really fun to use. It works very well. It's like, at least in Fortnite, I don't want to use a controller to play that. Using the mouse is way more accurate and works very well. Some people have said, because Nintendo has said you can use this any way you want. You can play it on your lap, you can play it on your couch. And I've seen some people say, no, you need a hard surface. And in my opinion, my experience so far, you can just use this thing anywhere. And I haven't had any problems with sensitivity. I'm sitting on my couch playing, and I have a soft couch. It's not hard or anything. It's like a fluffy kind of couch. And I'm playing on the armrest, and it works just fine. So I can imagine that if you do have a hard surface, it'll be that more accurate. But yeah, it works very well. The only thing is it's kind of hard to show, but the angle's a little awkward the way that you go like that. So, and some games you do need to still use the buttons, and some games you actually have to use the stick. Now, you can remap things, but it's a little uncomfortable to hold for extended sessions. So I think a Joy-Con grip, like a mouse grip, is going to solve that. And I think there are some grips out right now. A lot of crappy, cheap, like Chinese-made grips. But with time, some better ones will come out. Though I think the mouse functionality is so good, Nintendo themselves should probably come out with a first-party accessory or like a licensed third-party one. But I do think that some really good third-party accessory makers are probably going to come out with a grip. So I look forward to playing Metroid Prime in mouse mode. I think it's going to be very comfortable. If you're on the fence about that, it works really well, and it's a joy to use. I guess I'll show you the dock real quick. It's not very exciting. Certainly looks different. It's bigger. We have USB ports on here, and you actually take the dock off. It's not on a hinge anymore to access the power and the HDMI, and an Ethernet port, which is nice and very welcomed. It's got like a fan in here. It's just a dock. It's nicer. It does feel higher quality. It's not like as premium as I would like for how expensive this thing is, but yeah, it's a much nicer dock than the hunk of junk that was the other dock. One other thing with hardware, real quick, before I get into a couple other things, is these little bands that they've included. You just simply pop them right on your Joy-Con, and you use that when you're holding it, or if you want to play like that. Which this whole ordeal, still not great, but definitely a little better because they're bigger. But you can use that in mouse mode, so that's nice, and they're pretty cool. So let me put that there. Pop that on again. Works really well. Yeah, let's talk about. Let's talk about Mario Kart World. So I'm not going to get into spoilers. I don't want to show you anything. I don't want to even talk really about specific courses. So I've played actually a lot of Mario Kart World. I've done all the cups. I've played some of Knockout Tour versus mode. I've played online. I'm having a lot of fun. I think it's very good. Like so far, it's like a 7 out of 10, or it's a really good game. I think it's very different than Mario Kart 8. That's my first impressions. Like everything is very different. Of course, it's still Mario Kart. It's familiar, but the way the carts handle is very different. Item distribution is different. Visual style. The whole thing is different, and I kind of like that. I love Mario Kart 8. I've had that on the Wii U. I've put a lot of time into that, a lot of time, as well as on the Switch with 8 Deluxe. But I was kind of hoping they did do something a little different. I didn't want just Mario Kart 8 with more tracks, and it does feel like that. So I think there are definitely valid complaints that I'll get into that people have, but like the way the carts handle and things like that, I think a lot of it is just it's different and it's a different game, and we need time to get used to it. At least I do. I'm enjoying it though. I think it's really fun. It's good ass Mario Kart. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If you like Mario Kart, you're gonna like Mario Kart World. There's a lot of characters to choose from. There's unlockable characters and carts. The carts are awesome. Almost all the tracks are really freaking good. There's a few duds in there, but there were a few duds in Mario Kart 8. But yeah, and I think the only other thing with the game is like there's so much content in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and those booster course passes, a lot of them suck. There's just so many tracks, and there's not as many in this game, So that's a little bit of a bummer, but they'll come eventually. I'm sure we'll get DLC, but I think there's enough there to keep you interested. There's enough tracks. The tracks are very intricate and detailed. There's a booster course track I think it's called Ninja Hideaway. It's really, really good. It was one of my favorite courses from that DLC because it had all these different routes and ways you could take. And it seemed like that was them trying out Mario Kart World. Like, to me, every track feels like that track where there's just an overwhelming amount of routes you can take. You can rail grind now and jump on walls, and that's a big thing now. And, there's 24 racers. A lot of people have complained that the racing feels slow, and it kind of does at times because the tracks are wider to accommodate these new racers. But a lot of the so you do feel slower when you're just driving in a straightaway. But I think what they've intended is for you to really utilize that rail grinding and wall jumping and jumping from one spot to another, and you can boost multiple times now in the air. So there's like this Tony Hawk, almost like parkour feel to the game now. And I think they really do intend you to get better at that, to speed things up, because when you get going and you get in the flow of like jumping around while you're racing, you start going really fast, and that feels fun. With that being said, though, there are sections of the track where there's just nowhere for you to do that, and that's bizarre, and that's where it does actually feel slow. Like big open, sometimes it's not even just a big open road, like people have complained about straightaways. There are times where the track is just a giant open thing, like it's not even a road, you're just in a giant open area, and there's really not a lot for you to rail grind and jump on. That's where I don't get why they did that. But with that being said, even on those straightaway sections, those intermission courses, as people have called them, I don't really mind those. I find them fun. Yeah, they're not as exciting as the tracks, but they're a nice little in between. I kind of like them. There's always something to jump on, even if it's not to rail grind. There's always something cool to look at. The tracks are extremely beautiful to look at, very intricately designed. Almost all of them are amazing. I've really enjoyed them, and these are the kind of tracks that you can just replay over and over and over again. Yeah, I've played online. I found the online fun. Visually, from a performance standpoint, the game is like there's no hiccups I've found at all. I've played for like 12 hours. I found no frame dips at all. It's like a rock solid 60 FPS. Visually, it does utilize some sort of dynamic resolution. So it mostly runs at 1440p, and I would say most of the time. And when it's running at 1440p, it's gorgeous. And this is the game where I'm like, whoa, this does look. Of course, this is an outdated technology, but I'm like, this does look next gen. Like this doesn't look like a Switch 1.5. This looks very good. Like it's not just the resolution, it's the overall graphical upgrade, the attention to detail. This game is very cartoony, and a lot of this game reminds me of like Mario Kart 64, even in the way the carts handle in a much weightier way. It's not as like a twitchy precision game as Mario Kart 8 in terms of the handling of the carts. They brought back like sound effects for bombs and stuff like that. So there's like a quirky vibe to this game that I used to get from Nintendo that I didn't really get during the Switch years. So I like that, and I see that as well in Bonanza. So I'm hoping that they're getting back to this fun quirkiness that Nintendo is known for that I didn't really get from the Switch. Yeah, just everything. Like I love everything the way this looks. It really is great. I have a few more issues with the game. Like I find item distribution very odd. Like I find it's really hard to catch up if I'm in second. I keep getting I'm not getting red shells a lot. I find it very hard to catch up, and that's probably like my biggest qualm with the game so far is just in general. I find item distribution very weird. Like I feel like I'm never getting what I need to get. They've added some new items. They're pretty cool. Some are useless. Some are cool. Yeah, overall, it's a great game. There's a lot to do. There's the free roam mode that a lot of people have complained about because it feels kind of empty and there's nothing to do. And I do see the complaints. I think you should play the free roam mode because it really does. That's a great way to show you what they were going for, how everything is connected, and how the game works. I think that is very cool. I like the free roam mode. It's very repetitive. Like the little missions you're doing are kind of repetitive, but I find them fun. Some of them are actually really hard. I just think the rewards for what you're doing suck. And I think that it's kind of baffling. Like if they tied unlocking racers or even unlocking new tracks or just giving you something better for what you're doing, it would be really worth doing. I just think that the rewards they give you are like terrible, borderline useless, and sometimes I don't even think you're getting rewards. So that kind of sucks. And because it is definitely repetitive, it's like it feels like they were going for a Forza Horizon thing, and you can see the missed opportunity, and it makes you think, hey, if you guys have been working on this game for so long, why is it this empty? So I definitely understand the complaints. But with that being said, even just driving around and not even doing missions, it's really fun to drive around. It lets you learn the courses really well. It lets you see how everything is connected, and it lets you practice the new mechanics. There's like one big city level in particular. I'm not going to get into it, but I've spent a lot of time just driving around that level, rail grinding and shit, like, just going nuts, and it's a ton of fun. I've gotten better at the mechanics. Then when you go and do the races, you kind of know, you're like, oh, this is this part of this level. I'm going to pull this trick off. So, yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I don't have much negative more to say. I guess the fact that, when you're doing the Grand Prix and a lot of the online races and you do these intermission courses, when you get to the level, you only do one lap. And a lot of people don't like that, and neither do I. And I don't see how anyone would like that. It's an insanely baffling decision. I think I know why they've done it, because they probably didn't want to because of these intermission levels, they probably didn't want to make a Grand Prix too long. But even 2 laps, man, like some of these tracks are kind of short, and you do 1 lap and it's like a joke. It's over in like 30, 45 seconds. And because of the fact that these tracks are so intricate, you don't have time to like learn it. It just goes by too fast. They're very intricate, beautifully designed courses with lots of fun routes to take and things to do, and you don't have time to do that. And the fact that they've actively changed it online, used to be able to select random, and you'd get a 3-lap course, and they've changed it. So they really are forcing you in a very Nintendo way into the way they want you to play, and it's a terrible decision. It's okay like once in a while, like knockout mode is really fun, and I think you just do one lap courses for that, and that's fun because that's a different mode. But there's still ways to play 3 lap courses. You can do it in versus mode, but not a good idea. I think it's something they tried. It doesn't work. I hope they change it. I don't think they're gonna because they're very stubborn, but hopefully they change it. Anyways, Mario Kart World is great. It's not mind blowing or anything. I think it could be better. I think that given the amount of time since really the last Mario Kart game came out like 10 years ago or something like that, I kind of expected this open world would be like awesome. But yeah, it's as it stands, it's super fun. It looks amazing. Great music all around, like great track music. Great remixes from old games. Wonderful new soundtrack. It's a stellar game. Let's get into DK Bonanza. That's going to be probably my last section, and I know this is going on very long, but yeah. DK Bonanza is like the standout game to me. I was very concerned because, it's made by the Odyssey team. From what they showed off, it looks like Mario Odyssey, and I'm not a fan of that game. It doesn't feel like a traditional Mario game to me. It's not even really like a traditional platformer. It just feels like you go around in these jungle gym playground levels and just kind of explore and find things. And I know that a lot of people have fun with that, and that's great. But for me, it was very tedious and boring. Most of those moons were just so simple to get, and I didn't feel like it was rewarding. Don't get me wrong, that game has good things going for it, but this game is not just a Mario Odyssey clone. There's DNA of it in there, but there's a lot going on. I think they took the best parts of Odyssey, the exploration, the playground-like levels, but there's a lot more going on. There's a lot of different games that this takes from. There's the whole destruction mechanic. That is, first off, it is like crack cocaine playing this game. Destroying the environments and everything is so insanely satisfying to do. It is so unbelievably fun. It is addicting. There are times where you want to farm. So first off, the fact that you'll go into a level, and these levels are really well designed. They're very intricate. They're maybe a little too busy, but very busy, very pretty to look at. And this game has a verticality kind of thing going on. So there's all this verticality in the levels, which is really cool. But these levels themselves are like almost fully destructible. So you can't think about platforming in this game based on what you see. You have to think about everything in a vertical way. So they'll be like, you'll just go exploring and you'll pound through the ground and you'll fall into a giant cave system. And sometimes, you're collecting, I can't remember what they're, crystal bananas. I'm going to call them golden bananas. Like, just for an example, you'll go into a cave, you'll see there's a golden banana on the ceiling, but then the trick is now, okay, how do I get there? Because I can destroy things, but I can't terraform and I can't make a mound of earth to climb up to it. So then the trick is, how do I get there? And while a lot of this game is, just kind of like Odyssey, where you would explore and just come across bananas or come across moons, there's way more to it in this game because of the excellent destruction mechanics and the way. Not only are those incredibly satisfying to use, but the whole game is built around it from a level design standpoint. So even the kind of basic, happenstance bananas where you're just exploring and you find them, they're still fun to find because you have to go out of your way and explore. And while there's some pretty, brain dead, easy ones to collect, I've collected over 100 so far, and most of them have been really fun to get. There's also like little challenge rooms, just like in Odyssey. And I think in Odyssey, there was a basic moon you could get and then a hidden one. And I found almost all those challenge rooms to be like just too easy for me, like very basic. And every challenge room I've done in this game, while nothing in this game is very challenging, it's a pretty easy game, they're very fun to do. And they give you like, you can get one banana, there's like a harder version to get, and then there's a hidden one. And some of the hidden ones are fun. And also some of them have been a little tricky, like a lot of challenges in this game being built around destruction mechanics. It's like, I see what I have to do, but I'm not sure how to do it. So there's a lot of fun to this. This game is great. It's visually great. I think that this game doesn't look quite as good as Mario World or Mario Kart World, because there's so much going on. It really does utilize dynamic resolution. I think Digital Foundry did point out they're using FSR1, which is kind of a bummer, um, because yes, this game does, like Mario Kart World, like I said, often is in 1440p and is stunning to look at. And this game is clearly running at showing at 1440p sometimes and looks gorgeous, but a lot of times it jumps down to like 1080p, and you can see that dynamic resolution working. So don't get me wrong, this game always looks great. Texture quality and design and everything is really very fun to look at, but it does rely on that dynamic resolution a lot more. It looks great, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's not like visually like mind blowing. And also, that ties into performance. The performance is really good. Like, it's shockingly good. I think they originally said they were intending this game to run on the Switch 1. There's no way that this game would ever run. First off, it just looks better than the Switch 1 game, not just from a resolution standpoint, but from an overall texture standpoint. But there's like times where there's so much happening on screen, it's insane, and I barely get any slowdown. Like normal gameplay, I get virtually no slowdown. It runs at 60 FPS. It's only when I go crazy where you're like on the verge of causing yourself a seizure. Like there's seriously so much happening on screen. You almost like can't tell what's happening, and I get just a little bit of slowdown. There's some slowdown with camera shifts and when you open up the map, but performance is very impressive. And just this game in general, overall, is super impressive. I just find that it's taken the best parts of all these different Nintendo games and put them into one. So yeah, like at times it's a little mindless. You can like go around and just destroy the environment to like grind for gold and things like that. And even though that's completely mindless, it's so satisfying to do. It's really fun. And I'm sure I'm only on the third level. I'm sure I've seen repeated tasks, but they use the destruction mechanics in creative ways to get around the repetitiveness, which I've liked. I'm sure that this game will get a little repetitive at some point, but as of right now, I've played a decent amount of it. It's very addictive, super fun, and I have to say I'm very impressed. And there's this weird charm to this game, much like even more so than Mario Kart World. This game has a lot of humor in it and a lot of just bizarre, just oddness to it that I would expect from a Mario or a Donkey Kong game. Some stuff I would expect from Rare, and it does feel kind of like 90s Nintendo. So I think they're kind of going in the right direction. This is a great game. It's not a masterpiece. I think a lot of people are saying it's like the best platforming game they've ever played. I think it needs for that to be the case, it needs more linearity to it. I don't want a super linear platformer, but I think it has a little bit of that Odyssey. You're kind of doing mindless things. There's too much freedom for it to be like a really tight experience. But it is super improved from Odyssey, just in my opinion, not to beat a dead horse, but yeah, it's really surprised me. It's a fantastic game. It's very addictive. It's got a lot going for it. I don't want to get too much more into it, but I do think if you play this and you will probably find yourself overwhelmed and lost at the beginning, and just stick with it. The game gradually introduces what you're supposed to be doing and mechanics that make the game more fun. And the more you play, the more you unlock, and the more the whole idea of the game opens up, and I think, gets better. So yeah, that's the Switch 2. Yeah, is it expensive? Yes. Does it have some issues that I wish were fixed? Yes, but I do think it's actually quite a huge improvement from the Switch. The two games I've played color me impressed. I haven't really been impressed with Nintendo's first-party offerings in a long time, and these games are very fun. I think what we're going to see is DLSS and dynamic resolution is going to be a big thing. I have a Series S. That's a big thing on there. A lot of developers don't utilize it well. They rely on it. And I think that will be a problem with this console. Like, a lot of games will rely too heavily on it, and you're going to get a blurry experience. Because I think resolution is more important than graphical fidelity. I worry that some games are getting Switch 2 updates, And that's cool. You know, the games that, not just first party titles, but like third party games and stuff. Like Cyberpunk got a Switch 2 edition. A lot of games are getting Switch 2 editions. And I just feel like there's going to be a ton of games you want to play that are just not going to get that. Like I was playing Crash Team Racing, which already looks not great on the Switch, and it's not updated, you know, and it looks horrible. It looks terrible. You know, there's no reason to play it on my Switch when I can play it on other consoles where it just looks better, you know, and it's like maybe that game will get an update, but I don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of games that you're hoping get an update that just don't. And that's going to be a problem, I think, for some people that we're going to see, but we'll see. Anyways, I know this has been incredibly long, but I just wanted to do an overview of this. I'm having fun. I think it's great. Like, it really is impressing me. All the new features they've added are great. Yeah, it's been a blast to play. I'm going to keep playing it. Yeah, and I'll probably do a full review of Mario Kart World and DK Bonanza once I put a lot of time, beat DK Bonanza and put a lot of time into Mario Kart. So yeah, if you have a Switch 2, let me know. If you've ever watched this channel, you know I'm very critical of Nintendo, and yeah, I've been having a ton of fun. There's a lot of good here. So yeah, peace out. Keep it spoiler free. You know, if you want to talk about DK or Mario Kart, that's totally fine. Just try to keep it spoiler free. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Peace.